Hello, hello.
How are you? Good to see you.
See you too.
Well, I've been a mentor.
It's the first time that we've done something like this, and we gather under a simple but really quite profound theme: brotherhood and belonging, which for so many men in this country actually represents something that they've never truly known. So tonight is about understanding why that matters.
So I was 18 and I was in a room with people I didn't know. I was the only black guy there. I was the youngest person in the room. Everybody else was at least 30, if not more, up to about 60. And at the end, a 32-year-old called Anthony came over to me and he said, "Who are you and why are you here?" And that was a difficult one to answer because I was there really to fulfill a duty of my old headmaster, to take notes and send some notes back to him because he couldn't attend the meeting. And Anthony was on the other side of the table, and he was 32 at the time, I was 18. He came over to me and said, "Who are you and why are you here?" So I told him, and then he said, "Let's go outside and get a coffee somewhere and just talk about life." That was the beginning of a relationship that has now gone on, realistically, over 40 years, that 43 years. What I learned in that experience with Anthony was that you connect and you bond with people because you discover the reality of their lives, they discover the reality of your life, and you take whatever comes. Of those of our 362 brothers, 80 of them have criminal convictions. Kareem was merely in prison 11 times, and I love this dear one to bits. When I had to go through a very difficult set of operations because I'd had a shattering knee experience, in fact both knees got badly shattered in an accident 14 years ago, who was the person who took me to every single hospital assessment? And one of the things we've done as a group of men is to choose to serve outwardly, voluntarily, inside prisons. And what he does is leads the mentoring arrangements that we have inside that prison, which Kareem and Paul are vital parts of that relationship. People love to say that those who are the best mentors, the best engagers with people who are complex and have difficulties and so on, are those who have walked the same road. That's absolute rubbish. People who are the best mentors are the people who listen. And that's any one of us can do that. And it's not about walking the same road. It's about having an open heart. So thank you.
We're a mentoring organisation, as I might have said just now. We're particularly there for people who have faced adversity, and particularly for those who come out of the criminal justice system. We see young men without purpose, young men who feel lost. We believe that we're building communities, and most importantly, we're doing it one man at a time.
So we've known one another for a few years. I just wanted to ask you a bit about what life was like before ABandOfBrothers for you.
I've got 2 children. I turned to substances to numb how I was feeling. Life was chaos before ABandOfBrothers. I didn't have community, I didn't have purpose. My dad left when I was younger. Since being a part of ABandOfBrothers, I've got access to seeing both of my children now. So I see them regularly. And that was 6 months sober.
What does being involved in ABandOfBrothers mean for you?
It's made me feel like I'm a part of something bigger and share my story with people younger and older than me. I've recently completed the mentor training, so I'm looking to become a mentor within ABandOfBrothers because it works. It works for me. It's worked for people around me. It's been a beautiful journey. I'd like to thank you for bringing ABandOfBrothers to Cornwall.
I saw so much poverty and hardship that's kind of hidden a lot in Cornwall. I just thought, we've got to do something down here. And just as I was thinking that, another guy, James Benzing, was doing the same, and we lived 3 miles away from one another, so it was a bit of magic.
What does the future for ABandOfBrothers look like to you?
I'm hoping we can get ABandOfBrothers across Cornwall in every good-sized community, but also across the land. That's my ambition for it. You're not just a fantastic role model amongst young men, you're a leader from within, and seeing the energy and the enthusiasm and the commitment you bring lights me up, but older men across the board in our community. Thank you.
But I think that, when I started WOW, Women of the World, which is now 15 years old, I did it because as a theatre director, I was frustrated that the stories that were mainly told on films, stages, etc., sort of featured the idea of a male hero often, and women waiting to be saved. So, those were things I really wanted to change. And it was easy for me to say to girls and women, look, there's so much to celebrate. Don't listen to what you couldn't be, shouldn't be, didn't do. Think about what we could do. Now, I never thought of it as something which I would then say, and as a man, what about what it's like to be a man? But I'd been running WOW for about maybe 8 or 9 years. You notice that really boys and men don't seem to have that knack easily, or it hasn't been provided for them to gather together and go, what shall we talk about? How do we talk about all these feelings and how do we support each other? I'd started the Kersler Prize at South Bank Centre, where all the prison art was coming in. I noticed the grief so much in the art, but also the potential, the joy. And it was mainly men, of course, because the prison population is mainly men. I realised how few prison visitors were men, so that made me think, don't men love men? And I started to feel as if men hadn't given themselves permission to be loved. And so I started this festival, Being a Man, which was the same principle as the woman. Basically, with WOW, it's like, if you're a woman or you're no one, it's for you. If we allowed ourselves to say, women good, men bad, that we were really not going to help this thing that I wanted to happen for women, which was to live in a joyful, equal society. And I felt that men were just as policed in terms of, what should they wear, what should they look like, how should they act, how should they walk, everything. In the same way as women were policed. And surely that's a kind of crippling thing for humans. The thing that came most strongly through all the conversations I had with men was that they were uncertain about often whether their father had loved them, uncertain about fathering as a result, and that this kind of notion of love was puzzling. And that in its place, substance abuse, drink, pornography, or all kinds of stuff was sort of in the place of something. That it's fine to air these feelings, but you don't exactly know what masculinity is supposed to mean. But it's a subject which is fascinating and interesting, and we'll probably never get to the bottom of it. But, don't tie it back into a problem all the time. Although I'm running a women's organisation, it's because we want to live in a world together. We want to feel loved by men, and the best way that we can feel loved by men is honestly if men love themselves. That is definitely the way. And this massive sort of, big tribe under a massive tent, doesn't matter whether you're doing certain kinds of recovery programs or whether, as Michael says, you've never walked in those steps at all. It's all part of the same thing, which is how do we be good human beings for each other? And I do think it's one-on-one. Just have to have the courage sometimes to be outside your comfort zone emotionally, outside your geography, and outside your life experience. Women want to hear that men are looking after each other. You're allowed to call yourself brothers like we're allowed to call ourselves sisters. We're all doing this together. Thank you.
Terribly, for the large part of my life, I've been terribly negative inner monologue. Never been very kind to myself. I did grow up in a place where there was often many compliments. Terrible attendance at school. I found school very difficult. I understand that a bit better now. I've been diagnosed as autistic. It explains why putting my school uniform on was the hardest thing in the world for me every day. I tried to. Also, even between mates, it's like, as adults, it probably took me until I was 30 to say I love you to my mates. I don't feel this. I love you. Korean is one of my, what I'm saying? People would be quick to say, no, that's not for me. I was offered the chance to sit the entry exam for St Paul's Academy when I was 11, and I kissed my teeth and I said, no, it's not for me. I felt like I knew my place in the world at 11. People don't access services that they need, especially men, whether that's a GP, whether it's a therapist, until it's a point of crisis. And men die because of this, right? Because they go, that's not for me, or I can handle it, I'm a man. Or I've got to be a man, this kind of archetypal idea of what it is to be a man. And Jude, I think what you said is brilliant. We don't know how to love ourselves because we don't have relationships with ourselves, because as men we're born and our values are externalized immediately. I was 40 when I learned to sit with how I felt, and my son taught me. He was 3 at the time. and having what most people would call a tantrum, what he was actually having was a hard time. And I realised in that moment that if I lost my shit, like, what I would teach him is that what he was feeling would never be tolerable, because he's looking to me as the man he's going to become, and he's going to be a far better man than I am. I know that already. And then I thought, oh my God, wait a minute. I did a documentary called Suicide on Me, which was a look at why my dad may have taken his own life. And what I got to was the difference between someone who will and who won't take their own lives is the ability to sit with their feelings. I said that. This was 15 years ago. It was cerebral. It wasn't integrated. And in that moment, I went, shit, I've said that and I've not done it. And we look at things on Instagram, fucking conversations that Steve Bartlett has with people, and we go, oh, that's brilliant. But how many of us actually integrate the incredible things that are there for us to learn? It's really, really important that as men, we understand that vulnerability can be a strength. You don't want to be vulnerable everywhere because people will take advantage. Resilience is important as understanding that vulnerability is a skill. But learning to sit with your feelings, learning to name your feelings, and not just walking around acting them out, as so many of us do, putting them on other people, you know, that is the most significant change you can make. People watch the news and get angry over things that they cannot change, and they make no effort in their own homes. Life for each of us is an entirely internal experience. I can learn all the words in the dictionary and articulate beautifully what I feel, and you can never truly understand, but if you listen well enough you'll have an idea, and we might be able to find parallels as to where we can relate. The most significant change as a man I think you can make is in yourself, and it's learning to sit with your feelings and to understand them, to reflect and to respond and to not react.
Are you kind to yourself now then?
And how am I kind to myself now? By putting my hand up every time I speak and saying I reserve the right to grow, which means I might be wrong and change what I think, because I want to continue to learn and I'm open to learning. I think we all need to get better at that, because someone saying something that is conflicting with what you think in that moment might be the very thing that changes your life for the better. So how am I kind to myself? I give myself grace, and I don't believe everything that I think.
We know that through what we do at ABandOfBrothers, through the mentoring processes, through the rites of passage, we reduce crime, we rebuild people's lives. And we see, as Thurston said, an ABandOfBrothers community in every city, because we know, as James said, that this works. The first thing that I ask of you is simply get involved. Whether that's being a mentor, whether that's about being an ambassador, or simply someone who just shares the story of what you've heard this evening. Your presence in a man's life could be the difference between a life lost and a life found. If you're in a position to support us financially, then please do. And we are a charity. Every donation makes a difference to hundreds of young men and communities across the UK. We've got 500 volunteers in this organisation at the moment across the UK, men who've put their hand up and said, I want to make a change and to help people in their communities. But no, thank you to Leathersellers who have gifted us the use of this facility.
Anyone who's involved in this kind of work, I'm sure you know, it can be long and hard and slow, and it takes commitment and resilience, both from the older men who are involved and from the younger men, to keep showing up, to be there potentially as a lifelong support mechanism. And so in thanking you, we wanted to give you a symbol of that hard work that we know that you've also done in your own ways to support people, and in particular support young men. And so there is a man in Cornwall who creates these amulets for us, and it is serpentine. It is a Cornwall specific stone. Hard work has gone into hewing this stone, and so we give you this amulet to respect the hard work you've done and to symbolise the hard work that we're all committed to. Thank you.